Your phone has a lot of things to keep you entertained. It has movies, music, games, social media, news, and podcasts. Sometimes you pick it up, scroll through it for a few minutes, and then you put it down. You know what? You feel empty inside. Now think about this for a moment. What did people do with their time before all these things existed? Before we had screens, books, and paper? We have to go a long time, about 100,000 years. Then people did not have writing, music, or religion like we do today. They were human beings sitting around waiting with nothing to do. What happened during those moments was really important. It helped create the world we live in today. Most people think that ancient life was about surviving. They think people woke up, hunted for food, ate, slept, and did it all again the day. That is not true. In 1966, a man named Marshall Solins studied a group of people called the Kungsan. They lived in the Kalahari Desert, did things the way our ancestors did. What he found out was surprising. These people only worked about 15 to 20 hours per week. That is not per day, that is per week. They had a lot of time. The rest of their time was free with nothing planned. Solons called them the affluent society. They were not rich in things, they were rich in time. They had free time in a week than most people do in a month. So ancient humans were not always running away from danger. They had a lot of time to just sit around and think. The question is, what did they do with all that time? Let's talk about a cave in South Africa called Blombo's Cave. In 2010, a man named Francesco Derrico found something cool inside the cave. He found a bunch of shells that were 75,000 years old. Each shell had a hole in it and was painted with red pigment. These shells were not tools or food, they were jewelry. Someone 75,000 years ago made themselves a necklace. They did it because they had nothing to do. Think about how patience that took. They did not have any tools or machines. They just used a rock and a shell. That kind of patience only happens when you have a lot of time. When you are not in a hurry, your brain can think about things, come up with new ideas. Boredom did not stop creativity. It actually helped start it. In another cave in Germany, researchers found a flute. It was made from a bird bone, was 40,000 years old. Someone figured out that if you put holes in a bone and blow air through it, you can make music. They did not do it because they had to. They did it because they had time to think and try things. A neuroscientist named Daniel Levitin says that our brains were able to understand rhythm before we could talk. Our brains were able to recognize patterns like beats and melodies a time ago. This helped us survive. Boredom gave our brains the time to think about these patterns. Here is something that nobody teaches you. You can only be bored if you understand time. You have to know that this moment is taking a time and that something else could be happening. Boredom is actually a sign that your brain's able to imagine things that do not exist yet. A dog waiting at the door is not bored. It is just waiting. It does not know that it could be doing something. A human being sitting in the dark 100,000 years ago with nothing to do starts to think. They think about what might happen tomorrow or what is making that noise in the dark. Every religion, philosophy, and scientific idea started with these kinds of questions. They started with a person who was bored, would not stop asking questions. In 2013, a psychologist named Sandy Mann did an experiment. She gave some people a task to do, like copying phone numbers by hand. Then she tested their creativity. The people who were bored did better. Their brains were able to come up with ideas because they were not being stimulated all the time. When your brain is bored, it does not shut down. It starts to think and come up with ideas. Boredom does not make your mind empty, it actually fills it with things. Of all the things that ancient humans created when they were bored, one thing changed the world the most. They started talking to each other. They did not just talk about things like where to find food, they talked about each other. They talked about who did what and what happened to someone. We call this gossip. It is actually important. It helped create civilization. Before we had language, our ancestors bonded with each other by grooming. Language changed everything. It allowed one person to talk to people at the same time. It allowed us to tell stories and build trust with each other. Language did not develop so we could plan hunts. It developed because people had time to talk to each other. Boredom created gossip and gossip created language. Language created everything. So let's look at how things changed over time. 75,000 years ago, someone made a bead in a cave in South Africa. 40,000 years ago, someone made music in a cave in Germany. Somewhere in between, people started asking questions that they could not answer. They asked about death, the sky, and why things are the way they are. Some of these questions became religion, philosophy, or science. They all started the way with a person who was bored and would not stop thinking. Modern psychology has a name for what happens when you never allow yourself to be bored. It is called overload. When you are always stimulated, your brain never gets a chance to think deeply. There is a network in your brain that only turns on when you are doing nothing. This network is responsible for creativity, self-reflection, and empathy. It only works when you are bored. We spent 300,000 years learning to turn silence into something. Then we built a device that fits in our pocket and makes silence impossible. Here is what that means for you. Every time you put your phone down and sit with nothing, you are doing the thing that the person in the cave was doing. You are giving your brain the chance to think and come up with ideas. Boredom did not hold humans back. It is what made them human. If you let it, it can still do the same thing for you.